I'm Matthew. I'm a senior in the EB department. I'm from the Bronx, New York, and I like meat.
For me, meat is mostly cultural. My family's Nigerian, so like basically every dish we cook with has meat or like a meat component in it. So it's really just like ingrained in everything my family does surrounding food anyway.
Meat to me is kind of like the cornerstone of a meal. I've always been taught that it's like you have your meat and you have your side and you have your vegetable. And so I think it's hard to break out of the idea that meat is kind of like an integral part of a meal that you eat.
Why do I like meat? I don't know. There's just nothing as satisfying as just biting into a nice steak. I mean, I'm trying to get bigger. I mean, as you can see, it's not really working.
It's very important because it's obviously a great source of protein, so it really helps me develop and grow, which is nice.
Well, I like meat because it's like really tasty. I like salty foods more than sweet foods. That's just how I've always been. So, and also my family cooks a lot with meat. A lot of beef, a lot of pork, a lot of chicken. So,
I like meat because it tastes good and there's a variety of meats. It's like you can cook it in a lot of ways. There's a lot of flavor profile.
I like meat because it tastes good, and it's a good source of protein.
I like meat, I think primarily for the flavor. I think it's very delicious.
I like meat because it's pretty easily accessible and it's a good source of protein and it tastes good to me.
It's pretty yummy.
It tastes good. I mean, so I'm Tim Searchinger. I am a research scholar at the Woodrow Wilson School, and my focus is how do you feed the world without destroying the world? We're probably genetically programmed to like meat. It was a good source of protein, and obviously our forefathers were hunter-gatherers, so lots of nutritional reasons. There's an enormous environmental challenge related to our diets and the meat consumption in them. It takes enormous resources to produce each calorie of meat, and it particularly takes enormous resources to produce each calorie of beef, lamb, or goat meat. Half of the global land area is devoted to agriculture, and probably on the order of 3/4 of that is devoted to meat production. The average American's diet is responsible for maybe 75% of the emissions of the average American's consumption of everything else, including energy. So if Americans were to cut in half their beef consumption, it would have a very large impact on global greenhouse gas emissions. All plant-based products are a fraction of the greenhouse gas and resource costs of conventional beef, and it's not even remotely comparable. As a whole, if you get your proteins from plants, you're likely using about 1/5 of the land and generating 1/5 of the greenhouse gas emissions as if you're getting your protein from chicken, eggs, or pork. But you're likely doing 50 times more efficiently getting your proteins than from beef or lamb. You can get all of the micronutrients you need easily by eating a range of different plants. We actually are inundated by protein. So actually protein is simply not the issue. The big issue seems to be that people actually do like to eat meat. I think we're going to have substitutes that satisfy people. And so actually having hamburgers that really do taste like burgers is probably a really big deal.
So my name's Elliot Swartz, and I'm an academic research advisor with the Good Food Institute. And we really focus on leveraging markets and innovative technologies in the food sector, mainly focused on plant-based and cell-based meat, eggs, and dairy technologies to transform the animal agriculture industry. Plant-based meat is a technology which fundamentally works to biomimic meat from the ground up. And so when you think about what meat is made out of, it's just kind of proteins, waters, micronutrients, and all of those things can be made from plants. And so what companies now are doing in this space are taking this biomimicry approach and coming up with new products that compete on all aspects of kind of meat, mouthfeel, the taste, the sensory profile, and the nutritional profile of meat. And these products are really catered to carnivores or people that eat meat normally rather than just vegans and vegetarians. The Impossible Burger is one of the kind of flagship products in the industry. The Impossible Burger fundamentally uses plant proteins, but also combines it with an ingredient called heme that's derived from the soy-like hemoglobin soy plant. Essentially what is done is you can take the gene that encodes for a specific protein such as heme and use a bacterial or yeast host as factories to produce those proteins. With heme, it's kind of a natural iron-carrying protein, and so that gives it really the kind of meaty aroma that a lot of meat eaters desire. The products that exist today really do recapitulate a lot of the aspects of meat, and so I've had the Impossible Burger, for instance, and I think it's pretty close to the real thing. It's important to keep in mind that some of the products that exist on the market, such as the Impossible Burger or the Beyond Burger, which are kind of the most well-known in the industry, they're really only on their second iteration, and they're already getting pretty close to the real thing. There have now been a few studies that have been done that have looked at how plant-based meat impacts or reduces the kind of environmental issues associated with conventional animal agriculture across the board in terms of greenhouse gas emissions, land use, and water use, and also eutrophication potential, which is essentially caused by nutrient runoff from farms. These are all dramatically reduced, in some cases upwards of 90%.
I do know what the Impossible Burger is. It's like a plant-based burger that you would eat as an alternative to a meat burger.
I've heard of the Impossible Burger. The Impossible Burger is a burger that simulates meat without actually including meat.
The Impossible Burger is like a plant-based alternative to a 100% meat burger.
I think the Impossible Burger is just an alternative to like a regular meat, like a regular beef burger. Yeah.
It's a plant-based burger-like dish.
Bunch of vegetables mashed into like a circle. I don't know.
Do you want to try the Impossible Burger?
I would love to try the Impossible Burger.
Do I go for it?
Yeah, go for it.
All right, I'll take a little morsel of a bite. It's really good.
Awesome.
Yeah, I can't really tell the difference, especially on the look.
This isn't meat. It's like the texture of a turkey burger, but the taste of a regular burger. I'm a fan.
I think it's excellent, and it actually tastes more like a beef burger than I expected.
One of the things that veggie burgers have a hard time doing is getting like the grilled flavor into a burger, and that does it really well. And I think the grilled flavor is one of the most satisfying things about eating a burger. So I could definitely see myself having the Impossible Burger again.
I think it was more crispy, I guess, which was nice. It was more wholesome of a taste, I guess. I don't know. I like the taste better, honestly. Like if you sat someone down and they didn't know that it was vegetarian, like, I mean, they may sense it, but they're not going to be like overly critical about it. I think they're just going to eat it and be like, oh, it's pretty good.
I could definitely see myself swapping out the Impossible Burger for a beef burger even more frequently than once a week.
I'd probably swap this out for a beef burger more than once a week because I don't really see that much difference in the flavor between this burger and a beef burger.
I could probably swap this out for a beef burger more than once a week. I probably wouldn't feel so bad about myself after each one.
Until recently, I was skeptical of how quickly it would take to start replacing meat in diets, and the announcement just 2 days ago by Burger King that it was going to have this Impossible Whopper, and Burger King's own claim that essentially no one can tell the difference between that and a conventional Whopper, which would be completely counter to their brand strategy if it weren't true. That tells me that this transition is going to happen a lot faster than I thought.
If you look forward at 50 years in the future, I think a lot of what we consider normal may change in terms of our meat consumption. And plant-based meat, I think, will play a big role in that future. And a lot of people will consider plant-based meat as the norm, as their meat on the dinner plate.